Hey Indians, this is Jeremy Fuel, Superintendent here at Mississinawa Community Schools. This letter is going to be sent out soon to the entire community, but it is a long letter or memo. So I did want to provide some audio and video with it to break it down because there's a lot of information, a lot of details within this letter or memo for the community. So first and foremost, I'm not going to read through all of this, but I am going to hit some high points within this letter for everyone. And we've gotten some questions recently as we work through our strategic planning process. And I really want to reach out to everybody and just say that we're trying to be 100% transparent with district finances, where our facilities are, where we think that we need to be going, and we want our community feedback and input on where we are going as a school, but also as a community in a whole. So we recently met with the school board to decide what avenues we're going to look to pursue. And I'm going to go through some of that right now. And it does have taxpayer impact. So we want to get that information out sooner rather than later and garner feedback from the community. So I want to thank everybody that's been able to attend our strategic planning sessions, our building tours, have reached out to me personally as well to know what the district is doing to limit taxpayer impacts. So we understand that there are challenges within our facilities, and we need to balance the challenges in our facilities with the affordability to our taxpayer. What we are looking at from a capital referendum standpoint is an $87 million referendum, which primarily will be focused for RJ Basket in the high school. We do have $26 million of bonding capacity, which does not impact the taxpayer. That money really is going to be focused at our elementary schools, Westview and Northview. There's not a lot left over once we do the work needed at Westview and Northview. There's not a lot of money left over to address needs at RJ Basket or the high school, which is the need for the $87 million referendum. And that is a taxpayer impact, and we'll get into that. So question that I have asked is, can we afford this? Can our community afford this? But really what from digging into everything and looking at it, I think the better question is can we afford not to do this? Truly strong schools are our main thing that drive people to want to move to a community, younger families. And I know Mayor Rock's doing a great job looking to expand businesses as well as looking to expand housing development. If we're going to expand housing development, we have to have a very good school system and school facility to attract people to move into those housing divisions. We need that to be able to attract businesses to the area and to grow our economy. And the better the school systems, the better the property values are for individual homeowners as well. So want to get into a little bit of the reality of school funding challenges. So schools are made up, and we've talked about this before. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail there, but the debt service fund, which is what we use, it's funded from local taxpayer dollars. It's what we use to pay for capital improvements to our facilities. When you look at what inflation has done to increase the strain on schools, construction costs have risen by 5.5% annually from 2010 to 2023. Now, our debt service revenue has risen during that time throughout the state as well, but that's only increased at a rate of 2.6% annually. So that's left a compounding 3.1% annual funding deficit for schools in Indiana for their debt service. This funding deficit is for the entire state of Indiana, and so we do see that impact here at Mississinawa Community Schools, especially. Also, at the same time, public schools are Indiana. We are being asked to do a lot more with a lot less funding. And really, since 2010, the operations fund net levy, which that's paying for a lot of your utilities, transportation costs, and insurance costs, that's really lagged behind. And really, when you look at the transportation, utilities, and insurance, that accounts for 75% of the operations fund budget. Speaking for Mississippi Community Schools specifically, we have faced a $3.1 million loss in the operations fund since 2016 due to circuit breaker loss. And that's that property tax caps of 1%, 2%, and 3%. In 2024 alone, we lost $307,000 due to circuit breaker funding restrictions. So looking ahead at 2025, we started running our budget numbers. We work with policy analytics. They run out 10-year projections for us. We saw through those projections that we were facing some major projected deficits over the next several years, really next 8 years plus. We started to really get granular with the data to look at specifically where those deficits were coming from. So we looked into our education fund specifically, and we had a 1.5 million projected deficit for our education fund for 2025. The entire administrative team, our financial team, came together, brainstormed different ideas on how we can cut that deficit down. It was my goal to get that deficit to $600,000 deficit for 2025. But the good news is with some unique strategies and being able to pay for certain things out of title funds, pay for certain things out of special ed grant funds, we've been able to cut that $1.5 million deficit to a $20,000 surplus projected at this point in time. So the district has really, over the last few months, tightened the belt financially to save as much staffing as we can. We've been able to cut some additional non-staffing programs out, and we're continuing to look at what other things we can cut to have the least impact on our staff and least impact on our students ultimately. And so the district's doing everything that we can from a funding standpoint to decrease budgets to allow us to operate within the revenue that we're receiving. We ultimately, the revenue that we receive is truly out of our control, and we have to operate with whatever revenue that we're able to generate through local tax dollars and state tuition supports. I want to talk a little bit about impact of proposed legislation that's coming through. Big one for all schools is Senate Bill 1, which is part of Governor Braun's property tax reform initiative. It would specifically hit Mississippi Community Schools hard, to the standpoint we would lose almost $800,000, so $759,719 approximately from our total net levy in 2026 if this bill, as presented, does pass. And if it does pass, there's going to be some very, very hard decisions that are going to have to be made. And so I just want to make the community aware of the potential issues that we are facing that's completely out of the school's control. This funding reduction really would compound the financial strain that we're already facing. When you look at the $3.1 million of loss from local taxpayers' dollars due to circuit breaker loss since 2016, the additional $307,000 of a lost circuit breaker in 2024 alone. You tie that in with the increased state mandated salary requirements for staff and the expectation and requirement from the state to provide free curricular materials without a dollar for dollar reimbursement from the state. All those factors come into what creates that budget deficit for us. So we really want to make the community aware of, not just at Mississippi Community Schools, but throughout the state of Indiana, public schools are at risk from the funding constraints that are going on. So really going into why we are looking at a referendum. Well, from the capital standpoint, you saw up top above the increase in construction cost, and with the increase of the debt service fund, they don't equal a net zero. We are lagging behind, which is what's causing us not to be able to upkeep and maintain facilities that we need to. So we need to be able to look at long-term solutions to consolidate services, to consolidate buildings as best as we can, so that reduces our annual operational cost. And that's what you'll see from some of the plans that we're looking at, is how can we be strategic about what we do to be good stewards of our taxpayer dollars today and in the future. Um, why does the referendum matter overall? We're looking to get ADA compliancy. Safety and security is a big reason. We need updated technology and learning spaces for our students. If you look at the facility presentations, we're at max capacity in all of our buildings, which is a good problem, but it's still a problem that we have to address. Um, we would really like to invite everybody to join the conversations. We've had 3 strategic planning sessions up to date. We do have our 4th strategic planning session next week, February 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. in Mississinawa High School. We will be going through a lot of the building project proposals, the finances from the projects as well, and talk a lot of detail in that. So next I want to talk about taxpayer impact. So we've talked with the board, Mississinawa School Board. We've come up with what we are going to propose to the community. We have $26 million of bonding capacity to be able to use for capital building projects between now and 2038. But again, that's not enough to do anything with RJ Basket or the high school. That money right now is really earmarked for both elementary schools to do some additions and renovations in those buildings. We would have some money left over to do some Band-Aid repairs at RJ Basket in the high school, but nothing of significance. It would be asphalt work, mechanical work, and some roofing. Beyond that, there's nothing else that we can really utilize those funds for. So I want to go into this chart here, which was created the other day from Policy Analytics. This goes and breaks down what those projects or referenda would be as an impact to a property owner. So the $113 million project that you see right here, that adds in together a total project. If we had to take the 26 million plus an $87 million capital referendum, that's what that 113 million equates to. So a $113 million project would mean that we would be able to do everything that we need to do for our elementary schools, for RJ Basket, and for the high school to propel the district ahead for the next 30 to 40 years for any sort of major renovation that would be needed. The next one that you'll see next to it is the operating referendum. Due to circuit breaker loss and our low net assessed value of property in Mississinawa Community Schools, there is a need for an operating referendum for school safety measures, for transportation replacement. Our buses are very, very far behind where they should be in terms of the replacement schedule, just due to not having that revenue due to circuit breaker loss and that low tax levy that we generate. What we've noted on this chart is you will see we put a 25th percentile home, which is 109,000 right here. And then that's the lower 25th percentile. We have the median, the average home is 128,000. And the 78th percentile is $168,000 property. We have a $200,000 home and a $300,000 home. And we want to show what that tax impact would be to a property homeowner. So you'll see that the base net liability is in this category right here. That shows the base net liability for each of those home values. And same for down here. Next, what you'll look at is, okay, what if an $87 million referendum was passed to do this $113 million project? This is what you would be expected as a property owner and taxpayer to pay on an annual basis in addition to that net liability. So if you look at the average home of $128,000, that's $698 per year that would increase. Now, looking at a 10-cent operating referendum, this would be the tax impact of a 10-cent operating referendum. And so again, going back to that average home of $128,000, that average homeowner would be $52 per year. So all in all, if we combine a capital referendum of 87 million along with a 10-cent operating referendum, which lasts 8 years, that would equate to $750 of taxpayer increase for a $128,000 home. What we will have is obviously not everybody falls into a $128,000 home. Not everybody falls into a $300,000 home. You want to know specifically what your tax impact is going to be for you specifically. So we're going to have our financial team create a calculator, a financial calculator, tax calculator, where you can go in and punch in your home's information, and it will tell you down to the dollar of what your tax impact will be from the passing of these two referenda. Okay, we'll scroll down here. This section, again, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but we did a Q&A section based upon some questions that we've had throughout the strategic planning process. This will be something that we'll update along the way as well. As we get more questions from the community that we haven't thought of to put in here, we will update this and get this out to the community as well. So first one, why is Mississauga Community Schools proposing a capital and operating referendum? We talked about the $87 million capital referendum, just to upgrade those facilities that we really need to upgrade for, allow for investment opportunities into the community to help grow the economy and provide our students with the facilities that they truly need. A 10-cent operating referendum would generate an additional approximate $450,000 annually for the district for school safety initiatives, transportation needs, and competitive staff salaries as well. So I've talked a lot about this section right here in previous financial presentations, but really what I want to hit is we're at $135,000 per student of NAV. State average is $454,000. We are by far the lowest in the county, and definitely one of the lowest in the state of Indiana, well below the state average. This is due to we just have a low assessed value within the district, and so that decreases the amount of levy that we get into our debt service fund. What are we facing? We've talked in terms of financial constraints. We've talked a lot about that already, but the circuit breaker loss is a big one. 3.1 million since 2016, 307,000 in 2024. We do have some limited bonding capacity of 26 million, and that's from 2025 to 2028. 26 million is not enough to do what the school needs to do. There's going to be, if we're not able to pass a referendum, a capital referendum, there's going to be some hard decisions that are going to need to be made over the next 5 to 8 years with the district in terms of what we need to do going forward to make things work. Big thing I want to note is projected deficits for 2025. We have a cash balance of around 7.5 million. Our team here has done a phenomenal job of putting our heads together to come up with a plan to decrease our projected deficit of 1.5 million for 2025 to a net zero at this point in time. It's a working document. These are projections, but we do have a really, really good plan in place to really tighten our belt financially to decrease our expenses. So how will the referendum funds be used? Really, that 87 million, we've talked about the 26 million of bonding capacity that we have available that does not impact the taxpayer, but the 87 million would allow us to do work that we need to do for grades 6 through 12 by relocating 6th through 8th grade to the high school through a middle school addition, be able to consolidate some services between RJ Basket and the high school, which would save on the annual cost of the district for operational costs. And that helps us when we have that circuit breaker loss in our funds. That really helps us significantly there. It's going to ensure that we have modern, efficient, and safe learning environments for our students and staff. How will the capital referendum impact taxpayer? We talked about that previously, so I'm not going to go into detail there. But for the average homeowner, $128,000 value, it's $698 annually is what it is. And again, we'll have that calculator out available so that you can look specifically at what your property would be. How does the number of out-of-district students impact the district's finances? We have about 1,600 in-district students, and we have 700 out-of-district students. We generate an additional $6.5 million of education fund dollars from those out of district students. So people say all the time, well, why, if we don't accept those out of district students, we don't need to do these facility upgrades. That's not the case. We have to do facility upgrades whether we have the out of district students or not. The facilities are just in that state to where they need some attention too. If we did not have the out of district students, that would mean that we would have to cut not just staff, but we would have to eliminate programs and potentially look to consolidate schools. Talking about consolidating elementary schools, talking about consolidating RJ Basket with a high school. They're just different options that we would have to look at just to be able to ensure that we're not operating in a financial deficit. What steps have we taken as a district already? We talked about this already as well. We've been able to take that $1.5 million projected deficit of 2025 in the education fund to a $20,000 surplus by reallocating grant funds and cutting our expenses. And again, that's a huge step for us. We've been able to cut online subscription and programs to free up funds so that we can retain as much staff as possible. We do have a plan in place to be able to absorb staffing as staff retire, and we're going to be very conscientious of that going forward. So we have two different referenda that we're looking at. One's the capital referendum, which deals with the facilities, and the other is the smaller operating referendum of 10 cents per $100 of assessed valuation that would generate approximately $450,000 annually for 8 years. That would look to fund school resource officers for enhanced school safety. They're currently paid out of our operating fund and additional grants that we apply for every year. Allow us the opportunity to be able to look at 911 informed security programs, for CADA security systems, bus replacements that are definitely needed, and then also looking at competitive staff salaries to help attract and retain quality educators for our students. How does the operating referendum impact taxpayers? You can see it there, and we've talked about it. That's up in the chart above. Big one is what happens if the referenda do not pass. So either one of the referenda, if they do not pass, what is going to happen? What's the district going to have to do? And really get into this is, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my pen to work here. This is the question we're at. If the capital referendum does not pass, we're going to be forced to make inefficient temporary repairs to RJ Basket in the high school, which is going to lead to higher long-term costs and really poor use of taxpayer dollars. And that's what's going to happen. And we're not going to have a choice. We're just going to have to do that to get by until we can come up with a better plan long-term, which is going to take 5 to 8 years. Operating referendum failure. If the district is not able to pass that 10-cent operating referendum, we're going to have to continue to look to make cuts over the next several years to get to the point to where we don't run into a deficit. And so that potentially impacts safety programs, staffing, and security measures. Why should the community support the referenda? Really, it's just improved educational opportunity for our students, improved safety for our students, financial stability for the district, enhanced school safety and security measures, and then a long-term cost savings for the district and ultimately the taxpayer due to that strategic consolidation and facility upgrades, which is going to overall help with the annual operations budget. Big one we get is, will out-of-district students have to pay for a portion of this referendum tax amount? The short answer is no. They do not live in the district, thus they are not subject to property tax. However, our facilities need the upgrade whether we have out-of-district students or not. What the out-of-district students do provide the district is additional revenue to add programming and staffing corporation-wide that all students benefit from. If we eliminated the 700 out-of-district students, we would have to eliminate $6.5 million or more from our education budget, and that's a lot of staff and that's a lot of programming that would have to go away. What will happen to RJ Basket if it doesn't continue to house 6th through 8th grade like we're proposing? We're proposing to move 6th, 7th, and 8th to the high school as part of a middle school addition. What we're looking at is tearing down the original 1950s structure, the annex, and the 1970s structure, retaining the gym for corporation and community use, as well as for Mississinawa youth sports, maintain the cafeteria as a community center, and also for staff professional development space, and then repurpose the existing west wing of the building that is currently science and arts for our new admin building. And then we would also look to construct a transportation building there and be able to house our buses, all at a centralized location that would allow us to move our fuel tanks from Westview to that location at RJ Basket, and truly become a center hub of the community and of the district, and do the work that we need to do there to bring it up to scale, as a good community building as well as a district building. So if the district would move to RJ Basket, what would happen with the current administration building, the old East Elementary School where I'm currently at? The idea with that would be that we could turn the East Elementary School, which was originally set up as an elementary school, it's an easy conversion to turn it into our preschool early learning center there. And we initially thought about keeping preschool at Westview, and I know it's a popular opinion to still keep it there. However, when we look at it on what it makes the most sense financially and logistically, East Elementary, the current admin building, provides a center location for that. It provides us opportunity to be able to grow and expand. And there's limited dollars that we would have to spend in this building in order to bring it up to the restrictions and guidelines that are in place for preschool and early learning programs, and allows that growth. This year alone, we had to turn away approximately 50 students. We had to close one classroom. We always have a waiting list for preschool, but we had to turn away approximately 50 students. And so we don't want to do that. We want to get those students in earlier. It means better literacy skills for them, better foundational skills for them ultimately. And that goes a long way for those students, those families, and our community and district as a whole. So that's really what we're looking at right now. I want to get this information out there. Obviously, there's a lot of information in this letter for everyone, but I want to put that out there. My contact information is here. I encourage anybody, please give me a call, shoot me a text, do leave a message. I may not be able to answer right away. Do leave me a message and I will get you called back. Would love to sit down with anybody to go through this information. I do encourage people to attend our upcoming strategic planning sessions. We're going to have more community sessions going into the spring, summer, and fall of next year as well, just to get the information out there and be as transparent as we can with that. So please take some time to pass this along, share this with other people. Really, at this point, we're just distributing the data and the facts out to the community. And whether you support a referendum or not, I just want you to be informed on all the details prior to voting on anything. So appreciate everybody taking the time, and truly your support is critical in shaping the future of Mississinawa Community Schools, Mill Township, and just Mississinawa Community, Gas City as a whole. So appreciate it. And as always, guys, go Indians.